This lesson is on double strategies and whether you should play the ball offensively or defensively. Playing percentage pickleball starts off with your shot selection. What shot are you going to hit and where would you like your shot to land? Points are played with the four players trading shots, trying to keep the ball in play and looking for opportunities to hit an offensive shot. The better players make sure to play most balls safe and are not hitting attacking shots on balls that are in a more difficult location. An analogy of a baseball batter is a good example to think about. The pitcher does not want to pitch the ball right over the middle of the plate, but instead wants to place the pitch in order to get the batter to swing at or chase a pitch outside of the strike zone. If the baseball batter swings at every pitch, they will look foolish when swinging at pitches outside of the strike zone. In pickleball, you want to place your shots low and wide to make your opponent stretch and also hit up on the ball. When players swing at every ball, and specifically well-placed balls, they become inconsistent. Most shots in pickleball are not played offensively but played more defensively or safe to keep the ball in play. The placement of your shots to be at the feet of your opponents makes it a low percentage shot to attack. The idea is to learn the difference of hitting the ball offensively or defensively. Basically, high balls can be hit harder and offensively, and lower balls should be hit softer so your shot lands in front of your opponent's feet. Playing percentage pickleball involves knowing the odds of hitting an attacking shot. If your success rate is 50%, then why go for it? You will be even with any player. But when you work a point to eventually get a high ball to attack that you can win over 75% of these points, then go for it. Defense versus offense. First, let's get a good understanding of the two. You are on the defense until you are up at the non-volley zone line and hitting a high ball designed to force your opponents into an error or perhaps win the point outright. To get into this offensive position, you need to get up to your non-volley zone line. When you're receiving the serve, your team has the advantage. One partner is up while the other is hitting the return. The better way to ensure your advantage is to hit your return deeper, which keeps your opponents back and gives you more time to react to their shot. Balls that are higher than the level of net can be viewed as balls that you can hit offensively. In order for the team that served to have both partners up at their non-volley zone line, they need to hit specific shots. It is difficult to teach strategies that apply to all levels of play, but these are generalizations that give you the concepts. Number 1. Hit a ball that lands in your opponent's kitchen that is called a drop shot. Drop shots land in front of your opponents and force them to hit up on the ball to clear the net. If you move in quickly on a well-hit drop shot, you will have the advantage if your opponent hits the ball up too high. If you are slower in getting to your non-volley zone line, or your opponent hits a defensive ball to land in front of your feet or very low, you again are in a defensive position. Your ability to control these shots in front of your opponents is a skill and is one of the key factors in the skill level ratings. Number 2. At most levels of play, a well-hit drive will often result in your opponent hitting a defensive volley. Hitting a strong drive is a good percentage shot because it will challenge your opponent's volley, and many players may hit your drive into the net or even hit it out. Your third shot drive has extended the point, challenged your opponent, and not made an unforced error. If your opponent volleys the ball short, you can now run forward and hit your next shot into your opponent's kitchen to effectively neutralize the point. A good strategy is named third shot drive and a fifth shot drop. Number 3. Another common play situation is hitting a strong third shot drive, and when the opponent volleys the ball short, you now move forward and hit another drive at them from close range. The percentage of this working depends on the volleying skills of the players up. Since a drive from the baseline works against many players, hitting another drive from closer range will be effective as well. Against really good volleyers, you may very well lose the point by hitting a drive that they volley back to win the point. You then are probably second-guessing your shot selection and thinking that you should have hit a good drop shot and made your opponents hit a low ball down by their feet. Number 4. Hit a shot what I have coined a dining room shot. This shot is a modified drive or drop shot. At most levels of play, Hitting the ball below the level of the net will result in some mistakes from your opponents. Most players hit the ball too hard, and when you place the ball below the level of the net, they hit up on it and it flies long, or since the ball is low, they'll hit the ball into the net. One of the advantages of the dining room shot is that it has a larger window or margin for error. This shot is not designed to land in the kitchen, but designed to land 2 to 3 feet past the non-volley zone line. If your opponents are a foot behind the non-volley zone line or even at the non-volley zone line, your shot hit with medium pace will still be low to your opponents and force them to hit up on the ball to clear the net. Your defense is determined by your ability to, number 1, physically cover your side of the court, and number 2, develop good hands, which is the paddle skill of getting your paddle on the ball and keeping the ball in play. Covering your side of the court, which is 10 feet wide and 15 feet from your baseline to your non-volley zone line, requires some lateral movement as well as moving forward and backward. One of the reasons that pickleball is so popular is the size of the court is relatively easy to cover. A step or two sideways can cover the width, and around 5 strides allows you to move forward to your non-volley zone line. Having some quickness is certainly an advantage, but having a few steps will allow you to play against most opponents. All in all, you should be able to move and get your paddle on most balls hit to your side of the court. Your readiness to move to your opponent's shots is very important. The idea of a crouching animal ready to run or pounce is a good illustration on how you should be as your opponent is hitting the ball. How do you prepare when your opponent is hitting a serve to you? You rarely get aced, but you are ready to move. Also, after you and your partner hits a serve, your opponents rarely hit a winner. You should be ready to move, and you can almost always get to the ball after one bounce, and you have a legitimate chance to hit the ball and keep the ball in play. As we age, the court coverage can be more challenging against players with accurate placement. A good drill is to have one player try to catch serves or returns of serves with their hand. This drill proves that you can physically move to the ball and catch it, so with a paddle you would then theoretically return it. Good hands is described as the ability to keep the ball in play when you are able to hit the ball with your paddle. These players control the paddle face so the ball is always deflected back into play. These players are like human backboards. The next higher level of play is nice touch and great feel, which are terms that describe a player's skill to return the ball with placement to keep the ball low to their opponents. Low balls must be hit up to clear the net and are therefore more difficult to hit forcefully. The skill to hit the ball specific distances is key to a very good defensive pickleball player. The target area for your shots is to have the ball land just in front of wherever your opponents are positioned, which forces them to hitting up on the ball. The team that forces the other team into hitting more half volleys will generally win. The second important placement is to hit the ball so your opponent is hitting a low volley which is below the level of their knees. Players who haven't developed accurate placement by controlling the pace, height, and spin of their shots will inevitably resort to the power game. The power game works at most levels because the power breaks down the opponent's shots. Power forces errors and causes your opponents to hit reactionary shots that are often hit back high, which can also be attacked. In most pickleball games, it is a person that makes the least mistakes that ends up winning. So we want to minimize our mistakes and play it safe on most shots. We want to build in a margin for error because none of us are perfect. Hit the ball down the middle of the court as the net is lower and it gives you 10 feet on both sides. Slow the pace down so the ball doesn't fly long. Hitting the ball cross court gives you longer distances. Work on the placement to keep your shots landing in front of their feet until you can get a higher ball to hit offensively. Offensive shots are winning shots that are achieved by both power and/or placement.